For years, I said, if I ever get a season-ending injury, I will start a movie review YouTube channel. Here's my leg. So here I am today, starting it out. Welcome to Andrew's Movie Reviews. For those of you that don't know me, I want you to think of that friend you have that references movies way too much, quotes lines that no one has ever heard of, and asks you if you've seen movies that he already knows the answer. No, you haven't. That's me, and I'm here to talk about movies as much as I can, for all of those of you that may be the same. As for today's video, every year Rotten Tomatoes puts out their list of the most anticipated movies of the next year, and the most anticipated movies of 2023 has recently been updated and released. So today, I will be ranking all 33 of Rotten Tomatoes' most anticipated movies of 2023, and letting you know which ones are going to suck, what I think their Rotten Tomatoes scores are going to be, and which ones I think are going to be some of the best movies of all time. Coming in dead last, at number 33, the aforementioned Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Now, I personally thought that the first Transformers movie was okay. I'm about probably halfway through Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, and it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. I do believe that I need to eventually get through all these movies so that I can talk about them with people, but I really don't want to, and this one's just making it harder. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 13%. Number 32 is actually the next film in the Conjuring universe that's coming out. Now, I am personally a big fan of the original Conjuring, and I believe Annabelle Creation is maybe the scariest movie of all time. However, the movie that this is a sequel to is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and that is The Nun 2. Now, The Nun 2, I believe, was slated to come out this year, and was pushed back, probably because it's going to be a bad movie. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 17%. Now, I personally love superhero movies. However, I don't follow the comics, so a lot of the times when a new character gets introduced, I really don't know what to make of it. Now, this next one is another movie about a Spider-Man villain, although it doesn't take place with any of the actual Spider-Mans, and that is number 31, Kraven the Hunter. Now, the reason I have it this low, despite knowing not much about it, is you may recall that there was another character from the Spider-Man universe movie this year, and that was Morbius, what is widely considered maybe the worst movie of the year. I personally believe this one is unfortunately maybe going along the same fate. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 33%. Number 30. The live-action Little Mermaid has been getting a lot of hate, and that is not personally why I have it this low. I just don't like Disney live-action remakes. The last one that I saw in theaters was Beauty and the Beast, and I actually did like that one. I'm a big Emma Watson fan, so I really like that movie. Since then, I believe the most recent one that I've seen is Mulan, and it is a bottom 30 movie of all time for me. As such, I don't believe Disney is going on the right path, and I believe that even if the critics like it, I am going to hate The Little Mermaid if I end up seeing it. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 65%. Number 29, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This one is a hard one to rank for me because I have absolutely zero context for this. I've never played Dungeons & Dragons. This is a movie that's not made for me, and that's fine. It just means I am not going to anticipate it much. That being said, I do think it's going to be reviewed similarly to 2021's Mortal Kombat, and it's going to be mostly for fans of the show, not for critics. Or the game, sorry, not for critics. Personal Rotten Tomatoes score prediction, 41%. Number 28, the live-action Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling Barbie movie. Now, having read the synopsis, it reminds me a lot of Enchanted. I like Enchanted. I just don't think it's going to work as well for a Barbie movie. I think it's going to be incredibly similar to that. I think people will like it. I think it'll be generally well-reviewed. I just have zero interest in a Barbie movie. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 82%. Number 27 is a movie that I actually am personally kind of dreading, and that is The Marvels. Now, I was not a fan of Captain Marvel. I recently finished Miss Marvel, and I wasn't a fan of that. I wasn't a fan of the character from WandaVision that's going to be in this show. So I really have very little to look forward to with this. That being said, it is an MCU project, and I generally tend to like MCU projects more than some of the worst movies I see, except for Iron Man 2. And I believe it's MCU. It'll probably be relatively well-reviewed. I just am dreading the fact that I kind of have to watch it. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 66%. Number 26. As not a big DC fan, I had absolutely no idea who Blue Beetle was. Now, I still have no idea who this character is, and that's why I'm not putting it any lower, any higher. I just really have no idea. My predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, with DC's record, probably a 52%. Number 25. Now, legacy sequels don't normally work. Every once in a while, there's a rare one that does, like Ghostbusters Afterlife. However, generally when a legacy sequel, comes out with a sequel of its own, it doesn't tend to hold up as well. Take Halloween 2018, and then Halloween Kills. It doesn't tend to hold up as well, which is why I have number 25, Untitled Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel. I think it'll still have a lot of charm as the original, but Ghostbusters Afterlife was mostly fan service, and they used that all up. Not sure what they can do with this one. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, unfortunately, 47%. Number 24, The Nightingale. Now, this is based on a book that I have absolutely never read, and I have no idea much about it. I read the synopsis, and it doesn't seem like a genre I'm generally going to be interested in, but who knows? I don't know enough. I know very little of the cast. I don't recognize the director, but maybe it'll be good. It'll probably be well-reviewed based on the synopsis. Predicted score, 91%. Number 23. Despite the fact that I never saw the Steven Spielberg The Color Purple, I think that because it's Steven Spielberg, it's unlikely that this next year's The Color Purple is going to pass it. Now, it may still be good. I'm sure it'll be well-reviewed based on the synopsis, what I know it's about. I think it'll probably get, roughly, Rotten Tomatoes score, 89%. Number 22, a movie that I actually didn't know was ever coming out until next year, until I read this list, and that is Evil Dead Rise. Now, I have only seen the 2013 remake of Evil Dead, and I hated it. But this is a lot more of a genre film that I tend to gravitate towards, so maybe I'll like it. Do I think it'll be good? Probably not. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 52%. Number 21. As I mentioned before, I tend to be a lot less of a DC fan than most people, and as such, number 21 is Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I personally wasn't a huge fan of the first Shazam, and that's just me. I think it won't even be as good as the first Shazam, but it does tend to be a little bit better than some of your other DC projects like Justice League and Batman vs. Superman. So, predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 73%. Number 20. When I watched the first John Wick, I thought, man, that was hyped up to be a lot better than it actually was. And I was confused, and since then I've never seen John Wick Chapter 2 or 3. So there we have number 20, John Wick Chapter 4. Now, I'm sure it'll be a lot of the same action stuff, which a lot of people like. It just wasn't my vibe. I preferred... there's a movie that came out last year, Nobody. That is a great action movie. I recommend going and watching that one. Maybe I'll see John Wick 4. Who knows? My predicted Rotten Tomatoes score is a 82%. When Charlie and the Chocolate Factory came out several years ago, the reboot of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, nobody asked for it, and quite honestly, I don't think anybody asked for a Willy Wonka background story. Maybe it'll be good, but number 19 is Wonka. For those of you that don't know, this is Timothée Chalamet going to be playing Willy Wonka, a young Willy Wonka, and to be honest, that does not interest me very much. We're about halfway through this list, and still not much has interested me, but we'll see. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 64%. Number 18 is my brother's most anticipated movie of the year, and I think it'll probably be very bad, but I like a lot of the people in it, and that is the untitled Super Mario Bros. Film. Now, I think a lot of the castings are red flags. Jack Black as Bowser, in particular, feels like maybe a cash grab type deal, but who knows? Maybe it'll be really good. Unfortunately, my predicted Rotten Tomatoes score is a 37%. Number 17. Full disclosure, I never saw the first two Creed movies, and that is why I have Creed 3 down at number 17. Now, it might be really good. I think it'll probably be about the same quality level as Creed 2 was, from what I heard about that. But who knows? I probably will not see this one. My predicted Rotten Tomatoes score is 78%. Number 16 is going to be in a lot of people's top 5s, maybe even top 1s. But in the past couple of years, I've found it impossible to keep up with Star Wars, so I stopped. And that is why number 16, I have Star Wars Rogue Squadron. I have not been able to follow. I have not watched Obi-Wan Kenobi, Bad Batch, Book of Boba Fett. And to be honest, I probably will see this one, but there's no guarantees. And I think it'll be just another average Star Wars product. My predicted score is 74%. Number 15, from the man that directed the 2018 reboot of Halloween, we are getting now a reboot of The Exorcist. This is a movie that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but a lot of that had to do with its budget and just the special effects of the 70s. And I think that with a more modern budget, this has a lot of potential. It just wasn't my favorite in the original one. I think it'll be solid. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 78%. Number 14 has me worried because it's been a long time since our last Indiana Jones film, and that Indiana Jones film was not very good. This is Harrison Ford's last outing as the character, but I don't think that means it's going to be good necessarily. It's from James Mangold instead of Steven Spielberg now, which who knows what that's going to mean, but I'm not particularly optimistic for this. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 55%. Now, as I mentioned before, I am not the biggest DC fan. However, down at number 13, I do have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and that is mostly based on the fact that I really like James Wan. I'm a big Insidious fan. I'm a big fan of the first Conjuring movie, and I have not seen the original Aquaman, but I plan to, and I think it's got potential to ramp things up and be super crazy. I think critics will feel about the same as they did about the first one about it. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 66%. Number 12, we have The Flash. Now, again, a DC project. This one would have been much lower if it were not for all the things about Michael Keaton coming back to play his role as Batman. To be fair, I was much more excited about this before Spider-Man No Way Home was released, because that was the original thing. But we'll see. Perhaps this will be really good. If they bring Christian Bale in, that could really amplify the movie for me, but I don't know what the odds are they do that. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 85%. Now, number 11, I still have not read this book like a lot of my friends have, and that is The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the prequel to the original Hunger Games trilogy. I believe it'll be pretty good. I liked all of the original Hunger Games movies except for Mockingjay Part 1, and I think my hope is that it elevates itself higher than Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them did for Harry Potter. And that's why I have it. At number 11, predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 82%. Now we are finally in our top 10, and maybe appropriately, number 10 is Fast X, the 10th Fast and Furious movie. Now, I personally have only seen the first and second Fast and Furious movies, and I did not like either of them. However, the more I watch the trailers, the more I realize, oh my gosh, these things are getting more and more insane. And I would like to see how insane this movie can get. It's apparently reported to be the next to last one, and we'll see if they stay true to that. But if so, these things are almost as crazy as they can get, and I'd love to see what they can do with that. Number 9 is one that I know is going to be a lot of people's number 1, and it's going to probably make people mad that I have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse at number 9. Now, I do like this. I loved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and I do believe this will be a very good movie. It's just slightly held back for me because it's a part 1, and it feels like it was initially designed to be just one movie, and they turned it into 2, and I don't think I like that. It's the same issue I had with the first Dune movie. I do believe it'll be very good, and probably not as well reviewed as the first, but still very well reviewed. I'm predicting 88% Rotten Tomatoes score. Number 8, a movie that would have been in my top 5 as of a couple of years ago, the untitled A Quiet Place spinoff. Now, the reason it has moved down is because I absolutely loved the first A Quiet Place, and I really liked the second Quiet Place. However, it felt very similar to the first one, and I didn't like that. I wanted it to do more of its own thing, and I'm afraid that with this spinoff, it may just do the same thing as the first two did. That being said, I do love the Quiet Place world. I love what they've set up. I think with a spinoff, there's a lot of potential. Predicted Rotten Tomatoes score, 89%. Number 7 is going to make a lot of people mad that I have it this high, but I allow myself to watch one good chick flick a year, and the original one of these was one that I actually really liked, and that's why number 7 is Legally Blonde 3. Now, a lot of you are going to call me crazy, but I loved the original. I'd love to see what they have to do with it this many years later, and hopefully it's one of those legacy sequels that comes along and surprises us. Predicted Rotten Tomato score, 74%. Number 6, you know when Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio get together, it's going to be something crazy. This was not what I expected, but it is absolutely what I feel like we need, and that is Roosevelt. Leonardo DiCaprio playing Theodore Roosevelt. This is my mom's most anticipated movie of next year because Theodore Roosevelt is actually her favorite president. She's a big national parks person. We all are, actually. So I'm very interested to see what they do with this, to see what Martin Scorsese's vision for it is. And I will definitely actually be going out to see this one. I feel like this is one that's going to get a lot of Oscar talk. My predicted Rotten Tomato score is at 95%. Number 5, while I hated Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man, the original, was one of my favorite MCU movies. And that is why Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is my number 5. I actually have big hopes for this one because it feels like it's going to dive into a lot of the crazy that Multiverse of Madness was missing. We'll see. I think its predicted Rotten Tomato score is probably going to be about an 89%. Number 4, with James Gunn at the helm, how can you not put Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? I think it's going to be an absolute blast with all our characters that we know and love. I actually think taking Thor out of the mix was a good thing for them, and because Thor Love and Thunder was not my favorite. And I think the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is going to be a lot of fun. Predicted Rotten Tomato score, 88%. Number 3, forget what I said about the Spider-Verse thing being a part 1, because I actually do distinctly think that Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 was absolutely designed to be a 2-parter, and I think it's going to be awesome. Mission Impossible Fallout is my favorite straight action film of all time, and I think that these Mission Impossible movies have only gotten better as they've gone along. If they can keep that up with this, I'll be very impressed. And Tom Cruise, hot off Top Gun Maverick, I think has a lot to show, and I'm real excited for that. Predicted Rotten Tomato score, actually a 97%. My number 2 of the year is going to surprise a lot of people, make them think it was number 1, because Christopher Nolan is, by and large, my favorite director of all time, and that's why I have Oppenheimer at number 2. For those of you that don't know, Cillian Murphy is going to be playing the title character, Oppenheimer. It's a historic piece, and I'm really interested to see what Christopher Nolan's going to do with this. He's previously given us some of his historic work with Dunkirk, and despite not being a war movie person, I thought that was really good. So I'm really interested to see what he can do with this. I think this may be the one that gets him his next Oscar nomination, and potentially his first win. Predicted Rotten Tomato score, 95%. But it is hard to deny number 1, and I'm just going to get it out of the way. Dune Part 2 has the potential to be one of the greatest movies of all time. The first Dune was one of my top 10 movies of 2021, despite being a first-parter, which normally bumps things down a lot for me. So that fact alone, and the amount of setup that it has, I am super excited for whatever this movie is going to do, and that is why it is my number 1 of the year. So there you have it, guys. There are the 33 Rotten Tomatoes most anticipated movies of the year, ranked by me. That's just an opening video. I thought it'd be a lot of fun. I should be going out and watching some new movies soon and getting some reviews on those. But until then, this has been Andrew's Movie Reviews. Keep your movies watching. That's a dumb catchphrase. I need to change that. Anyways, see you guys later.